and Peter Weber is finally sharing his side of the story in the breakup between him and Kelley. Kelley said that Peter was immature, and apparently he is way too into Pokemon, still likes partying and drinking, and that he didn't respect her wishes of waiting an extra couple weeks before putting up the breakup post on Instagram. Peter heard what Kelley put out there and took to his podcast, Bachelors in the City, to share his side of the story and to give context of Kelley's claims. Peter said that Kelley going on that podcast was her being calculated, disingenuous, and reaching for a headline. He also provides context in the fact that he loves Pokemon because he has stock in Pokemon, and that Kelley actually liked Pokemon too, maybe a little bit more than she was leading on. And the reason he posted the breakup on New Year's is because he wanted to get it all out there so that he can go into 2021 with a fresh new start. This is kind of providing some context. You know, Peter is responding to what Kelley said on the Chicks in the Office podcast last week. But after hearing Peter's side of the story, does this change your perception a little bit? Because I know we were all kind of on Team Kelley last week. And what is your thoughts on this whole Pokemon saga? Gabby, I want to start with you first.
This is definitely interesting. I think it's tough with like boyfriend girlfriend situations because they were together for a while. Like I'm sure Kelley was into Pokemon too, but like mostly because Peter was, and she wanted to like do things with him that he liked, and so he's kind of pinpointing that against her now. But the truth is, I'm sure she was just kind of doing it for him. It did seem like they, you know, in a lot of their TikToks, they kind of had fun and like were pretty relaxed and laid back. And Peter, we've talked about Peter being pretty immature in the past, so I'm not surprised to hear that she said that and that he's kind of coming back and trying to be like, oh, well, it's because I have stock in it. Like, I don't know. It seems like two perfect answers from him, sort of, because he needed to say something because what she said on the podcast was pretty crazy. So I don't know. I think, you know, the height of their relationship was also during the peak of quarantine when there just wasn't really a lot going on. And so now that more stuff's going on, maybe that made Peter like want to start partying and drinking again and kind of just not giving enough attention to Kelley when she had been used to having it for so many months. So I think that might have also been a reason too.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, personally, I don't like Pokemon, and I'm sure that Kelley was just standing there cheering him on about it. But deep down, she hated it. And that, like you said, Gabby, that's why it's coming out now. And having stock in it does make it more mature. But at the end of the day, if you are just sitting around playing Pokemon and video games, that does kind of fall under the category of immature. And we all know Peter is very immature. And I think he posted like the breakup on New Year's basically so he could go out on New Year's and have a good time. That's what it looks like to me. But at the end of the day, my opinion about Peter doesn't really change. I mean, Kelley definitely could have handled this differently, but I still think he's immature. I still wouldn't want to date him, and I still think she could do better. So that's that.
You know, I understand the whole New Year's posting thing. Like, I will definitely give him props to that because it's a new year. You want to start fresh. But the fact that he called her disingenuous, reaching for a headline, calculated by going on the Chicks in the Office podcast, that is where I thought that was just kind of inappropriate because he did speak, you know, highly of her in this podcast, you know, on his podcast. But the fact that he started the podcast off calling her those names, I just didn't think was really mature, and it really shows why Kelley got out of there because clearly she was doing a lot better. And Peter gets into more detail about the breakup, saying regardless of all the messiness and the back and forth, he still wishes the best for Kelley. He says that Kelley was the best relationship he's ever had and that he will root for her regardless of what went down between them. He says Kelley has a great family and group of friends and that she is so much more than just a girl from The Bachelor, and that he wishes she would focus more on talking about that and her personal life instead of the breakup and dragging him through the mud. And even more, Peter actually did try and contact Kelley a few weeks ago to clear the air before she went on the podcast, and Kelley left him on red. What are your thoughts on reaching back to an ex? You know, these guys, Peter and Kelley, they weren't talking for a few weeks. So why would he kind of reach out to her? What closure do they need? And why didn't she answer him? Is Peter trying to save face? Or does Peter have a point? Avery, what do you think about that?
I'm sure if he heard she was going on the podcast, that was probably half of the reason why he wanted to reach out to her. And for him to even call her those things, you know, people, especially in Bachelor Nation, they have to go on podcasts to share their sides of the story. They have to go on to clear their air. That's just the nature of it. And, you know, he's back here doing the same thing in response to what she said.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of goes both ways, but I don't know. I never have been a big Peter fan, so it's hard to like not take Kelley's side, but you know, she did what she had to do, and that was clear her name. And Peter felt like he was being dragged, but I think she was just being honest. Like he didn't like what she had to say. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's good to reach out to an ex. They even mentioned, I think he mentioned on his podcast that they had broken up before and then they saw each other. No one knew about it. And then they realized it wasn't going to work after that. So that just shows that they were done. So he probably shouldn't be reaching out. And for what? Probably just to save himself before she goes on Chicks in the Office.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. All of this really seems like Peter's just kind of being selfish here. Like the fact that he posted about the breakup before Kelley was ready. It's like when you're in a relationship, you really have to respect the other person's wishes, especially when you're a public figure and you kind of need to agree about, you know, what's the narrative here? What are we trying to say? We need to be on the same page about that. So I feel like there's a big lack of communication between them and they were handling it pretty immaturely. I'm sure Kelley was just super over him like at this point, but it kind of makes sense that he tried to reach out and clear things up or at least get on the same page because I don't know, it's tough. Like I haven't been a Bachelor couple, but it seems like there should be extra communication like during a breakup or during a relationship because you know you're just like everything that you do and everything you put out there online is going to get pressed and get noticed. So I feel like there's another layer of, you know, issues that go on there, but it does seem like a little bit of back and forth with them here.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth because this relationship ended 5 months ago. So that is what Peter wanted to talk about on his podcast in retaliation to Kelley going on the Chicks in the Office podcast last week is that why is this breakup still playing out in the press? That was kind of Peter's whole message on this. And he was really just accusing Kelley of wanting to create this headline for herself. So I have no idea. I think that they both finally said their sides. There's really is nothing else left to say unless Kelley goes on another podcast and retaliates from Peter. And then we'll still be talking about this a whole year later. So I have no idea. We're definitely going to put this to bed. I think all of us on the panel are kind of siding a little bit more on Kelley's side, but I do still have some respect for Peter. That is all we have for you today, and we want to know your thoughts. So leave your comments down below. Even if you didn't catch the live, still leave your comments, and don't forget to follow our socials. All of our Instagrams are down below, and subscribe and ring the bell because we will be back with more news updates and reactions. I'm your host, Zachary Reality, and today I was joined by Avery Grooms and Gabby Gonta. Our socials are below, so give us a follow and say hello, and we will see you guys next time for more Bachelor tea. So take care, guys. Bye.